So if I could give one tip, it would be learn how to ask better questions and assume success. And sometimes it just bypasses that stuckness. And that would be the 10-second version of how to coach. The more important thing is, what do you want? Why do you want it? If what they want isn't aligned with their values, they're going to continue to struggle. They're going to lose motivation. So instead of saying, I can't do it, I'm going to fail, she's going to reject me, you would say, oh, how fun is this going to be when I get a date? How fun is it going to be when I buy this house? How fun is it going to be to make my first million? And so you make the presumption that it's going to work, and it bypasses all the doubt.
Welcome to the world's greatest minds, where the most successful, impactful, and creative game changers on the planet deliver their hardest hitting advice in 30 minutes or less. Every guest is specifically handpicked, there's no paid placements allowed, and every conversation is completely authentic and entirely unscripted. Big ideas, raw conversations, and real impact. This is World's Greatest Minds, and the revolution of thought starts now. Welcome back to the World's Greatest Minds. I am so excited. I've got my buddy Bart Baggett here. He's an entrepreneur, author, comedian, and one of the world's foremost handwriting experts. He's testified in courtrooms nationwide, consulted with law enforcement, and helped countless clients uncover fraud and deception through the psychology of handwriting. Beyond forensics, Bart is a master communicator who built multiple companies across media, legal, consulting, and digital marketing. Bart has a school community called the Marketing Mastermind, where he coaches people on being the number one authority in their niche. He's also the host of The Bart Show, the world's most interesting people, where he mixes sharp wit with heartfelt curiosity to draw real, raw conversations from entrepreneurs, artists, and thought leaders. Whether he's on stage doing stand-up or breaking down the psychology of success, Bart's mission is simple: to make truth entertaining and personal growth irresistible. Bart, thank you so much for being here.
What a great introduction. I hope I can live up to that.
Dude, as I was reading it, I was like, this guy really is a badass. So you and I have got to spend, and I'm blessed to say this, we've got to spend some time together. The thing that's really interesting about you is, still waters run deep. You're super humble. But if somebody's willing to crack you open, I feel like you've lived 5 lives. You've done like real deal acting. I mean, been in like, major productions, and not just an extra in the background. You've had like actual roles, which is so cool. You've done stand-up comedy. You're one of the top handwriting experts in the world. You're an entrepreneur. You're a marketer. Like, holy shit, dude. I guess the first thing I'll ask is, why the transience? Why kiss so many frogs?
I'm at my heart an artist and a creator. And so when I started speaking when I was 17 or 18 years old, I really got the bug to be on stage. And that was really fun for me. And so as I developed all these skills, such as forensic and handwriting, I was like, being on stage is kind of fun, and helping people's fun.
Yeah.
And so when you think about the different things, being in court, talking to a jury, being on stage, talking to a comedian, doing a TEDx talk, which I did in Luxembourg, which is great. Those are all just part of communicating something that the audience goes, aha, I get it. That's a version of the truth that I didn't realize. And so they all kind of conflate. I mean, the acting bug was just one of those things on my bucket list. I was like, I'll regret it if I didn't do that, give that a shot. And so I didn't even start really acting till 30 old. And my girlfriend's tickled that she'll turn on Netflix. She's like, you're in that one? You're in that one? You're in that one? I go, yeah, I'm not in it a lot, but I'm in it. I do talk.
Well, and I don't think people realize just how difficult that is. It's without question the most saturated industry just in the world in terms of the number of people that are attempting full time to make a go at it. And there was this really amazing documentary. I'm sure you know of it. It's The Guy from The Thing. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
It was a documentary about actors who've made a living acting, who you recognize, but you'd never know what they were in. And there's a ton of them. And it's just this, they're kind of the unsung heroes of the cinema world. So the fact that you were able to do that, start as late as you did, because 33 in the acting world is like ancient, right? Your dad. And really crack the code on that, dude. I think it speaks to what I really want to talk to you about, which is maybe my favorite thing about you. There's a Tim Ferriss kind of, I'm going to figure this out, but I'm not just going to solve the problem. I'm going to climb the mountain and conquer. Like, you really seem to reinvent yourself well, and then succeed in forums that are wildly competitive. The number one handwriting expert, a marketing expert, a comedian, an actor. Like, where does that skill set come from? Is it cultivated? Is it innate?
I think it's really just one word. It's persistence. It's determination and a bulldog mentality to not give up when you fail. I've had a relationship with failure, which I just kind of expected. I expect it. I had speaking of acting, which again is not my primary thing, I'm so blessed to still have an agent. I still go on auditions. I was this close to getting the lead role with the John Voight film. Like, there was so many opportunities that I could have been a star, but
Yeah.
I wasn't. That wasn't my mission. But what had occurred to me, I came from a world of public speaking and I'd done Howard Stern and 1600 shows and all this stuff. And I thought, oh, acting should be easy. I'm not lying. I did 100 auditions in LA and nobody hired me.
Mm.
That took about 3 years of constant rejection. Now, luckily, I had a career. I could do it. I had free time, which is what I really preaching about, freedom and the ability to follow your dreams. But most people would have quit after 100 times saying no.
Most
And,
people
and,
go to
and
quit after 10.
so what occurred to me when I got the first role, which was a 5-hour energy commercial, which was pretty funny because no one knew I was acting. And be like, dude, you're a truck driver. I saw you on a 5-hour energy commercial. And one person goes, I think I saw you, but I think it's your brother. Do you have a fat brother? And I was like, am I look fat?
Oh,
That's what I'm talking
no.
about. So the point
Camera had 20 pounds,
is
dude.
outside of Hollywood, no one knows how difficult it is to get like a speaking role. And I remember leaving that audition and I thought that he goes, you did great. I go, I didn't even act. I was just myself. And he goes, that's why you did great. So
Mm.
it took me 3 years to learn the skill of not to act, to be natural. And that's not a skill that comes easily. And so all of these careers that look really easy have so much nuance, including stand-up comedy, which I started in 2004. And so, I'm on stage and Joe Rogan and Chelsea Handler and in the Comedy Store, and I was a rookie. And, the level between a beginner and a pro is 20 years of hustle. And so
Yeah.
the nuances of all these things that are great is so complicated. And the difference is, and I'm not an expert at any of those things, I don't think. I think I'm good at a lot of them, is I was just determined to keep failing and to keep going back and getting in the batter's box.
Yeah. Where does that come from? Like, if you were to go far enough back, why was little Bart somehow more accessible to failure than most people?
Oh, I wasn't. It wasn't until I met one of my mentors when I was 14. So I was just a kid that got picked on and walked away from fights. And I thought, I don't want to be this guy anymore. My mom and dad separated. But I remember that I met this guy named Dr. Walker, and he was a hypnotist and he was a handwriting expert. And he looked at my handwriting and he explained all these flaws, which I've solved most of them, low self-esteem and sensitive to criticism. And he said, if you do these things, your personality would change. And I thought, well, he's probably crazy because this sounds insane, but what do I have to lose? All I
Mm.
had to lose is low self-esteem. And so I literally programmed the idea of persistence in my handwriting, which is like a star. I changed some of the features that he told me to, which again, I didn't believe it was going to work. And he also gave me some hypnosis in time they were cassette tapes. And those two modalities, hypnosis and LP, changed my brain to begin to think that I could do things. And I remember the first time I noticed that it was really pretty cheerleader, I asked out and she said no, which, hello, of course, yet it didn't bother me. And I
Yeah.
was like, the next one will say yes. And so it really was me getting intervention from an expert saying, you can change your unconscious mind. You don't have to live with the patterns that you grew up with, and you are in control. You are responsible for your outcomes. And once that shift happened when I was a teenager, there was no stopping me. I was just super ambitious.
That happened when you're 14 years old. What a blessing that is. So I'm dubious already because I'm like, changing my handwriting can change who I am, how I act. Like, do me the favor of just
And
seeing
any
that because
reasonable
it
person
feels far fetched, doesn't it?
it feels totally far-fetched, and if I can put myself back where you are, I totally agree, it sounds asinine. But let me take it further. You believe that changing your thoughts can change your life, right?
Oh, no question.
So
Yes.
most
Yeah.
people would say, hey, if I could change my thoughts, well, thoughts are a series of triggers and emotions. And so those thoughts are part of what ends up being the physiology of a human being.
Mhm.
For 100 years, they've accepted handwriting analysis in courts to solve crimes. This person wrote the note, this person didn't. So the logical thing was if they're using it to identify a human, what else could come from those little micro movements of the hand? And
Oh,
there is a pretty good system of categorizing and systemize those. I'm not saying they're all right. They're not perfect. It's imagine if you were to interpret the hieroglyphics on the pyramid, you would have to have a perfect Rosetta Stone to get it right. And so if you have a really good person interpreting those signals, you might get some good information. I know instantly if someone is paranoid, if they're split personality, if they hate men, the problem with their dad, that's a very useful skill. But then to go the step farther of saying, what if we change your handwriting? And so what we're really doing is not changing handwriting at all. All we're doing is small micro movements of the hand, which affect parts of the brain. And then when you have that emotion, like I did talking to that pretty girl, all of a sudden I say yes instead of no. So really what you're doing is you're using anything possible to change your unconscious mind so that you get a different outcome.
hmm. Do you find that it's difficult for you to relate with people given that you have kind of this X-ray vision? Like, it's almost too much power as you describe this. If you're like, I know instantly if somebody hates their father, if they have low self-esteem, if you're sitting in a, you just came from a mastermind event, or you were at our mastermind event however many months ago, you're sitting in a room with 100 people. And it occurs to me that you know a lot more about them than they know about each other or they know about you. Like, does that feel uncomfortable, or have you found a way to alchemize that?
No, I mean, in that room, I wasn't there judging people, but if I was sitting next to you and I looked at your notes, I would have some insight on whether you're reserved or extroverted or sensitive, etc. A lot of people in that room have a lot of pride, a lot of dignity. There's a lot of successful personality traits in that room. It's not so much power as it is compassion. What I
Mm,
really realized was when I understood somebody's unconscious mind, most of their flaws are defense mechanisms. Most of what they do, if somebody drives a fancy car and has to look great, it's because they really deeply are insecure. So understanding sort of the variances of how these personality traits work together really created compassion in me, not power, not arrogance. And rarely would you use it for evil. Like, I guess if
mm,
you're negotiating with somebody and you know that they're really susceptible to compliments, you could compliment them. I think that's probably a good strategy anyway. And some people that would backfire with. So as far as like manipulating people, I guess you could use some of that. But if you're going to go down the path of like, how do you persuade people? I'd rather use my tools in NLP and hypnosis to manipulate people. But I don't even do that because I think what I have is a really good system. And if they buy into my system, which is, hey, have a good self-esteem, decide to get wealthy, be happy, have great relationships, don't lie, don't steal. Like, it's the same thing as all the good books say. So like,
mm.
I want to enroll them in my version of reality because I'm happy. So come on to my party. Come on to your party. Like, let's do this because this might be better than what your parents sold you.
Yeah, well, so beautiful segue. You wrote a book, Happy Wealthy Mind. The book is launching in April.
I'm so
Uh,
proud of this book. This is like 25 years of my life into this book, and it's really super thick, and it should have been half the size, but I couldn't cut anything out. Yes, it's about how to reprogram your unconscious mind to be happy and be wealthy.
yeah, and it's because you've clearly committed your life through different modalities. And as we're talking, I'm sort of seeing the thread, like NLP and hypnotism and handwriting analysis, and then honestly, marketing, acting, comedy. Like you're studying humanity from different angles, and you're sort of distilling this. So if you don't mind, and this is such an unfair thing to say, because you just said I wrote a book, I poured 25 years into my life, and the book is available. People can and should read it. And yet, I'm going to ask for further distillation. Like, what are the bullet points, dude? What are the cliff notes if a listener's not going to pick up the book and, screw them, right? But what would you say if you only had a couple minutes of their time to really move the needle and help them move at least one step towards happy, wealthy mind?
Sure. So the whole essence is how to reprogram yourself, outprogram your brain to be more wealthy, which means money and finance and freedom, and then have some success and then happiness. There's really three pieces. Relationships are happiness, whether it's with yourself or with your parents. So you got to have happiness. And within that, there's these chunks of tasks such as fitness and habits and belief systems and values and interesting little modalities and questions on how you can kind of sort people in your life. There's really only a few chapters relating to handwriting because again, handwriting is just a map of brain. It's a map
Mm,
of your unconscious. So if there's other tools to understand your unconscious, but the starting point is this. If you're not happy with your life, you're the only one that can change it. And so you're like, great, I'm not happy. Let's take an inventory. Let's get a map of what my flaws are, what my areas of improvement are, and let's figure out how to do it. For me, I had all this amazing success, but I didn't have a lot of financial wealth because it was never that important to me. And so that was something that I was like, I got to study this. Like, I'm having all this success in these area, but I'm not a millionaire yet. Like, what has to change? And so
mhm.
I think that was the last piece of the puzzle that made me confident to write this book because I've always been happy. Like, I'm hilarious. It's always been fun. I've had friends everywhere I go. But I was like, man, why do I not have 10, 20,000 month residual income? And when I solved that problem, I felt confident going, hey, I think I can help people solve those three areas of life.
Man, I really love that a lot. I'm so excited about this book. Happy Wealthy Mind launches April 2026. And you're launching it on your birthday, you said. Why'd you choose to do that?
April 30th. It's a, I like my birthday. Everyone's favorite word in the English language is their name
Uh,
and their favorite day is their birthday. And, I'm proud. Like I put a lot of work into this body of work. And by the way, like most of our revenue or our money, my wealth came from real estate, came from business. It didn't come from personal development. Most of the tours when I went to India and England, I lost money on those things. But you
Mm.
know how many people I touched, how many people that were connected and they went, oh my God, I had this epiphany. So it's always been, it's not fair to say it's a charity because obviously it's not a for profit, but it feels like a gift. And I know if you've never written a book, it just sounds arrogant to say that. It really does feel like I want people to hand this to their kids and say, look, don't end up in rehab. Just read this.
Yeah. No, it's you're pouring yourself into something that you hope outlives you. It's a legacy play in so many ways, and I think that it reminds me of that quote that society flourishes when, uh, people plant trees, the shade of which they'll never sit under. I know I butchered that, but I got the gist right, and this is that. You're planting that tree. This is your shade.
Well, it is, and I know that our time on this earth is terminal. Like we're not going to do. And most of the people that I've met, the brilliant minds, once they die, their work kind of dies too. So it really wasn't so much about a legacy. Although I gave a copy to my 18-year-old niece, and I said, "Look, this is how you win. Like when you read a chapter, call me. Like how can I help you navigate the next 20 years of your life? Because I didn't get what I needed at 18." To be
Mhm.
really happy and really wealthy. I got some pieces, don't get me wrong, like I didn't have a bad childhood, but the pieces that I got through all of this study is what really moved the needle. So I'm fit, I've got a great relationship, we've got money in the bank, we've got real estate portfolio. Like these are things I didn't have 10 years ago. And it's really a testament to small habits every day, staying on the path. And it's not just to get rich quick. I know you have a lot of success in business, and some of that happened through failure. Some of that happened through years and years of hard work. And there's nothing glamorous about the hard work. It is not that much fun to run business.
Yeah. You know what? I'm so afraid to say these words out loud. Dude, so much of it was luck. You know what I mean? So much of it was luck. Do you ever feel that way? Do you ever feel like, God, just the sun shined on me at the right time in the right way?
Well, in the opposite way, too. Remember, I told you I almost got that movie role with John Voight's company. It was like, what if? Like, there's
Yeah.
so many things that could have gone differently and your life would have spiraled. It was lucky that I met Dr. Walker. It was lucky that my dad said, hey, this is interesting. I'll pay for this course on handwriting so you can learn about unconscious mind. It was lucky that I was born in America.
Mm,
It was lucky that I'm in a capitalist world where I could fail and get up and start over again. So I didn't have the luck of like being in a hit show. Like I know actors, they're in hit shows. I know all those people that you talk about, actors,
yeah.
all those were my friends. Some of them were lucky to be working actors. Only one or two could make a living. You know what I mean? Like it's such a crapshoot when you get into these really competitive businesses. So yes, I have a lot of appreciation, but I don't think I've hit any home runs that I would
Mhm.
attribute to luck. And it's very humble that you say that. But you're right. I know Bitcoin billionaires, and come on, somebody
Yeah.
paid them in Bitcoin and they forgot, and now they're billionaires. That is great for them, and I'm not even jealous. I'm
Yeah.
just like, good for you.
So funny because I have a friend who he lands in that category, and it's interesting the way it eats at him. You know, he's got something like a $20 million net worth, none of it earned, and gosh, I've never seen money ruin somebody quicker or more effectively. There's 2 sides to that coin, isn't there?
In psychology, they call that imposter syndrome. And people talk about it a lot, especially in Hollywood. And my friend Lisa Haysher wrote a book, and it's one of her big premises. And I was like, Lisa, I've never had that. I don't think I've ever had a home run. I
Mm,
never had a hit TV show. Like I never had that. Like I eked it out. I'm so happy that I finally got some level of stability because I took the hard path. And I took the creative path, which you mentioned. These are really hard industries. So
yeah.
the minor bit of success, like even like, an applause at the end of a 10-minute, 15-minute comedy set, that's a big deal because that takes years to craft the skill to do 15 minutes on stage on a Saturday night in Los Angeles. And I don't think people realize how hard that is. Like you've done stand up. Like to do for 15 minutes of great comedy to a totally audience that doesn't know you is a
Mhm.
work of art, and it's not improv.
Yeah, stand up is one of the hardest things I've ever done, without question. You're naked up there in so many ways. And I forgot who I was listening to. It was probably a Rogan interview with a couple of them. You know how he does the roundtable thing, and they talked about how it takes 2 years. You have to suck for 2 years before you even start to get laughed at the right way. Did you experience that, or would you? I mean, you're a quick study, dude, so maybe it was a shorter timeline.
So funny story about my stand-up comedy career is in 2004, I took a class by an NLP expert named Greg Dean. So he did NLP and comedy. And I thought, this Judy Carter is okay, but let me go to him. So he was an NLP practitioner. So he said, here's all the habits that if you learn these, you'll never crash and burn. And so without like that structure of never like crashing and burning and losing your stuff on stage, I
Mm.
never had a complete meltdown on stage. And so what happened was I went to class at the Comedy Store. I was doing the Friday night shows up in the belly room, and I was always mediocre. And I never found my voice until like 5 years ago. But only time I felt like I crashed and burned is I followed Bobby Lee, who's
Oh,
brilliant. And he's
he's
like,
so
I'm
good.
going to take my shirt off. And I
Yeah.
was like, hi, I'm Dennis Miller. And the whole room sank. So I didn't have the flexibility to keep up with that energy, but I didn't get booed. And so the answer to your question is it took 2 years to get super comfortable. But one thing I did have, because I'd been doing stage work my whole life, I could talk to the audience without any problem. And that's something I can tell immediately. I used to judge for the Comedy World Series, and you can tell immediately who hasn't had the minutes on stage because they just don't have the comfort level of
Mm.
interacting with the audience. And it is exactly that. It's 2 to 4 years of being on stage. Now, I got a lot of on stage before that. So that part was easy, interacting with the audience. But the joke writing, the structure, and what really shifted the needle, moved the needle for me, was finding my voice. And my voice is truth. My voice is sort of, my character on stage is sort of a pompous, arrogant truth teller with a lot of sarcasm, which is
Mm.
really not me. Like, that's not who you hung out with, right? Like, I'm not really, but when I was finding for that comic voice, that sort of condescending character really works on stage. And so it's sort of odd to do that because you're like, I have to pretend to be funny Bart, which is different than compassionate Bart.
That is int You know, it's funny when my team does research on everybody that I interview, and they pull together a dossier, and the word that came up in your dossier more than any other is authenticity. Like, that feels like that's your brand intentionally and then also just naturally, right? That's the way authenticity would land. Talk to me about why that's so important to you and why it seems to permeate everything you do.
Yeah, I even was beginning an agency called the Authenticity Digital Agency because I want to help people have that more authentic brand. Because authenticity, if you're a good person, will attract mates, will attract partners, will attract everybody. My dad drugged me to multi-level marketing seminars since I was 14. I hate this inauthentic sales pitch.
Yeah.
I hate the promise of get rich quick. It just repels me. And I'm not criticizing particular industries. There are great people in all those industries. I don't like that 70s sales type. And so I love when people are honest and say, look, get to know me. I think this product is great. This service is great. To me, that really shines. And so for me, the word authenticity, not only did I found that in my comedy voice, but I found it in the courtroom. Like
Mm.
my job for the last 20 years was just telling the truth. Like everybody's like, did you win the trial? I say, yeah, I got paid. My job is to go there.
Yeah.
Go there, tell the truth, and guess what? People win multi-million-dollar houses because someone's trying to steal their estate. Somebody is suing somebody because they forged a document on a lease. Like, I get to solve crimes or prospective crimes, usually in the civil case, and my job is to tell the truth. And so I took that very seriously. And so even in social media, when I'm being funny, it's like at some point I could be on the witness stand asking me about this interview. So I need to tell the truth all the time. And
Mhm.
in order to tell the truth, you got to live a pretty good life or you're going to have a lot to hide.
Yeah. What Abraham Lincoln said, "Nobody has a good enough memory to be a good liar."
I don't
Yeah, me
think, yeah,
neither.
I'm just like, that's what my girlfriend, look, I'm not going to do anything because I'm a terrible liar. I have a terrible memory. So I'm just going to have to be really honest and, take what you get.
Yeah, I got to spend some time with your girlfriend, not to deviate too far, but golly, man, like, she's beautiful. She's a professional pianist, is that right?
High level, like world class piano player at the classical level, like Rachmaninoff and Beethoven, really talented.
Yeah, she was just has something really special, and then y'all's interaction and engagement too. I There's something about it that I really envied. Like, I could just tell you both really enjoyed being with each other. Going back to what you said, relationships are happiness.
It's funny. People, did you look at her handwriting? I said, no, I went on a date with her and the handwriting was part of the conversation. It was just simply to see, is this woman what I think it is? So she's
Yeah.
not crazy. Like it was basically on the crazy scale, crazy, not crazy. I was like, not crazy, stable, good self-esteem. Let's go on a second date. It really was not a big judgment as much as just making sure they didn't have any like flaws. And within that, she has exactly the same values, the same diet. We work out all the time together. And there's so much compatibility in core values. That's what makes that really special. It also helps that she's beautiful and talented. But the other thing that we both crave, which I think is a values conversation, which is literally in the second chapter of the book, is if you love to learn and you're innately curious and your partner loves to learn. On the third date, we sat around and read a really dense NLP book about the structure of language. Who does that? Nobody. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is fascinating. This is how the brain works. Like that kind of stuff makes all relationships great if you can get on the same level emotionally. So I'm glad you liked her and glad you met her. I think I'm going to keep her.
Yeah, yeah, she's a keeper for sure. I want to ask, and this is intrusive, but I don't care. Actor, comedian, expert, writer. Are you working on a screenplay?
I have got a finished screenplay, which I wrote 10 years ago. I'm not sure it's very good. I think that I could play the lead, but I would have to keep aging up the character who was,
Yeah.
a running accused serial killer. I did a short film called Guru Poker, which got like 9 comedy awards, which I don't think you've ever seen. I don't think anyone's ever seen it. And it's like a 15-minute show where L. Ron Hubbard and Osho play poker. It's quite sardonic, and I think all the religious people would probably hate me if they saw it. So let's show it to them.
Yeah. Where do we go to see this, Bart? I want to watch it.
It's on YouTube. I have to send you a link. I just, it's interesting. The more comedy stuff I did, the more it confuses our target customers. So if somebody wants to go to personal development, or they want to be an authority, or they want to hire me as a handwriting expert, if they see a comedy clip, they're just confused. So I
Mm,
literally began to pull off my comedy off Instagram because the lawyers were like, wait a second, I thought he was the handwriting guy. And we've talked about this. It's very hard to be a jack of all trades.
yeah.
People really want to put you in a box. And so in my 20s, I won the gold medal and I'm the handwriting guy. And so for the rest of my life, I'm the gold medal guy. But I've also done other things. And so I think with the invention of all the chat GPs, it's going to be harder and harder to do lots of things well. So you'll probably see me as the handwriting guy, and I've got a really big business. So I'll probably keep that and keep doing that. We've got schools, but I love the personal growth, and I'm not going to stop doing movies and comedy just because people get confused.
I think that's really beautiful. I'm struggling with that right now too. I'm studying AEO at a very deep level, and answer engines want you to be one thing. And if you're not, they actually do not want to reference you because they get confused. Isn't that interesting?
And it's a problem for all of us that have multiple businesses.
Right.
I originally, when I launched the podcast, to speak to your thing is marketing and branding. When I launched the podcast, I changed bartbaggett.com to more of a businessman podcast expert. Our sales dropped by like 70% the next 2 months.
Hmm.
Because a lot of our businesses, one of our companies only deals with attorneys. So they went to the page to like, oh, I don't want to hire Elon Musk. I don't care if he owns business. I don't care if he does a podcast. I don't care if he does comedy. I just want that guy that can help me win the case. So when I realized, oh my God, like you can't be everything to put it back to the old Bart. And now it's just handwriting guy. And guess what? Sales went back to normal. And so, yes, it's absolutely a challenge. If you have many, many interests, like I play guitar, no one knows that. They're never going to know it because I'm not that good. But if I was great at it, I probably still wouldn't show it up because we've got to be this one thing. So I help experts become authority, and I help attorneys win cases. And for the average person, that's all they need to know. For your listener, buy the book. Let's talk. Let's change your life.
Yeah, they really need to. So the thing that strikes me about you that I'm most interested in, if I were to ask you to coach me or coach our listener, this accessibility you have to failure. Where do you start there? Like if you wanted to teach somebody to be as comfortable, or maybe as comfortable is an impossible line, right? But like just be willing to go on the audition and hear no, ask the pretty girl out and hear no. Just try and hear no. Like some people can do it, some people can't. For the person who can't, is there a, I don't know, man, like a soft entry point or a modification of behavior, or like how do we help them?
That's such a deep question. I kind of wish you told me ahead of time to give a better answer. I would go to a simple metaphor. I was like, look, when you were a kid, did you ever doubt that you could ride a bicycle? And they
Mm,
would say, no, I never doubted it. I just hard because all my friends are doing it. I'm going to ride the bicycle. No matter how many times you fell down, you knew you're going to figure it out. And so I'd take that metaphor and say, this is what we're dealing with this problem. And what you find is at some point they doubt they could ever do it. So they're like, no, I'm never going to do it. I'm going to go back with the dumb kids that can't ride a bicycle. I'm not going to go to the cool kids. And so if you can get them to realize that the only outcome is getting that thing and being in that club, they'll be able to push through it. And then also one of my best-selling books called The Magic Question. And for most people, simply the internal dialogue is their Achilles heel. And that question, by the
mm,
way, is free for listeners. Questionbook.com, free, Amazon, $5, whatever. It helps you ask a question which bypasses your internal dialogue. So instead of saying, I can't do it, I'm going to fail, she's going to reject me, you would say, oh, how fun is this going to be when I get a date? How fun is it going to be when I buy this house? How fun is it going to be to make my first million? And so you make the assumption, the presumption that it's going to work, and it bypasses all the doubt. So if I could give one tip, it would be learn how to ask better questions and assume success. And sometimes it just bypasses that stuckness. And that would be the 10-second version of how to coach. The more important thing is, what do you want? Why do you want it? If what they want isn't aligned with their values, they're going to continue to struggle. they're going to lose motivation. And so you've got to align what they really want with their core values. And then if they have some kind of deep flaw like sensitivity or low self-esteem or excessive need for control, those are always going to get in the way of any sort of business. And again, I tend to work with business people and entrepreneurs. That's really my sweet spot. I don't do a lot of counseling or therapy in any other area. But for me, getting wealthy or at least getting residual income is the brass ring. There's a chapter called The Golden Goose, which is essentially how do you get to the point where something pays you every month with hands off? And to me, that's total freedom. So I don't have a boss. I haven't had one for 30 years. I'm probably unemployable, Kasim. But no matter what happens, there's money coming in every month. The economy, everything. And I think everyone in America can get there. And the problem is they don't believe they can. They never made it important. When I finally decided everything I do from now on is going to have residual income element to it, boom, within 5 years, I was a millionaire. That was it. It was like I had to make that shift. Instead of being creative, instead of getting applause, instead of getting status, it's about residual income. And when that happened, my whole world changed. So it's that question is every month, how do I create residual income? What can I invest in? And that changes your way from a kind of a worker to an investor.
Dude, that was beautiful. This has been so extraordinary, Bart. I'm going to read my notes to you because you said so many things that truly are writer-downers. Most flaws are defense mechanisms. Compassion, not power, which I loved. Because we tend to view prowess through the lens of power, but why not view it through the lens of compassion or empathy? Relationships are happiness. If you're not happy with your life, you're the only one who can change it. I took the hard path. Assume success and align what you want with your core values. This has been an extraordinary conversation. You truly are one of the world's greatest minds. If somebody wanted to continue to hear from the Bart Baggett, where do they go? How do they follow you? How do they work with
you? Yeah, like I said, the new book's called Happy Wealthy Mind, happywealthymind.com. All of my social media would be about Happy Wealthy Mind. The podcast would be branded Happy Wealthy Mind. So go get the newsletter. It goes out every week. Go get the 2 chapters. Go download the free book called The Magic Question. Just follow me. Like almost everything from the book below is either free or low price. We don't even have anything really expensive unless you're an expert or authority and you want us to help you with your positioning. So yeah, it's a lot of free information. Even our life design course, which used to be $500, is free. Like just get on the email list and follow us. And then maybe you and Kasim and I can hang out on the ship because we do cruises and masterminds and all kinds of fun stuff once you're in the community of entrepreneurs that we're part of.
Yeah, that's I hope that ends up happening actually. I think that'd be a lot of fun for people from the podcast to find their way into the circle and be like, "You know what? I listened to that interview and that was the thing." Dude, this was amazing. Y'all, you just heard from Bart Baggett, who is one of the, if not the foremost authority in the world on handwriting, who segued into comedy and acting and is currently helping people on a self-improvement path with this new book, Happy Wealthy Mind. Pick up the book, listen to the podcast, tune into Bart. This has been World's Greatest Minds. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode. You've just heard another powerful episode on World's Greatest Minds. For links, resources, and full show notes from this episode, go to worldsgreatestminds.com, where you can also subscribe so you never miss another episode. Drop us a review because your feedback fuels the mission, and share this with somebody who's willing to buck the status quo. Most importantly, tell us who you think we should interview next. Nominate the people who you believe have the results, the track record, and the brilliance to truly qualify as one of the world's greatest minds. Join us weekly as we forge innovation in real time. This is World's Greatest Mind. The revolution of thought continues with you.